Welcome to Soz Talks Money on Valuetainment Economics. I'm your host, Adam Sosnick, and I'm here to help you build your wealth and save that money. On today's episode, sit back, relax, because we're going for a ride, because it's all about how you get around. Let's talk money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money.
So question for you. How necessary is it for you to have a car? That's the question of the day. Are we talking 100% you have to have a car? Are you 50-50? Hey, maybe sure, I don't know. What do you got to say, Saz? I don't know, I'm not sure. Or you're like, yeah, I don't even need a car, I'm good. That is the question of the day. Today we're going to be covering three topics. Number one, car stats in America. Number two, the tale of the tape, car versus Uber or rideshare, if you will. And number three, what you should do. Let's get into it. So ever since Henry Ford invented the modern day vehicle, Americans love our cars. We love our cars. We love our cars. Now here's the deal. We're so excited when we turn 16. It's like a rite of passage, a coming to age. We're 16. It represents freedom. We're leaving the nest. We got to get our license. We got to get a car. So what's the point of having a vehicle? People want to get to where they're going, point A to point B, if you will. And there's three major factors. What are the three major factors, you ask? Well, people want to get there safely. They want to get to where they're going quickly and affordably. So safely, quickly, and affordably. Those are the big three of getting where you're going. So now, the conversation we're going to have today did not even exist 5 years ago. Because 5 years ago, you had your car, you were driving your car, no question asked. Unless you lived in major cities with public transportation like New York City or Boston, you had to have a car. It wasn't even a question. But now, things have changed. Those are three very powerful words. No matter what you're doing, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what field you're in, things have changed. Now, what's changed today? Let's get into it. People used to love getting behind the wheel of their car. Now they love getting in front of their phone. Now, what else has changed? Now, since 5 years ago, really, now you got Uber, you got Lyft. Today, you got freaking COVID that's changing everything. People are working remote, they're working from home. So the question is, do you really still need a car? I don't know. What are your thoughts? Comment below. So one thing's for sure, we are no longer living in Henry Ford's America. Now let's get into the numbers. The average American household has 1.88 cars in the household. So that's just under 2 cars per household. Speaking of cars, what's the average price of a new car? 37 grand. That's the average price of a new car. How much is a used car? $20,000. 37 versus 20. New versus used. In 2019, 17 million vehicles were sold in the United States. And get this, what's the best-selling car in America? What do you think it is? I can't hear you. Well, it's the Ford F-150, buddy. Welcome to America. We love our Ford, just like Henry Ford. Now let's talk rideshare. When we're talking rideshare, we're talking Uber and Lyft, the big two, if you will. The average user takes 5.5 rides per month. That equates to 60 to 70 trips a year. That's how many times people are using Uber and Lyft. All right, now I have a question for you. What percentage of time do you think a car is parked? That's my question for you. Question of the day. What percentage of time do you think a car is parked? The answer is 95% of the time a car is sitting there being parked, not being driven, just sitting there collecting dust, if you will. Now, what does that equate to? To 23 out of 24 hours being parked. Now with COVID, it's even higher. In fact, I went throughout my garage in my building just to see how many cars were sitting there while you're making payments but collecting dust. Check out this clip. This is what I would like to call Murderer's Row in my building. It's just a bunch of bomb-ass cars that are just sometimes just sitting here collecting dust and leaking car payments. So let's see what this bad boy is. Now to my next question. I asked you at the very beginning of this episode, how necessary is a car for you? What did you answer? Did you comment below? Well, I'll tell you what most Americans have answered. Most Americans have answered 77% of people think a car is necessary, whereas only 23% say it is not necessary. What are your thoughts? Necessary, not necessary? I'll tell you my story real quick. I haven't had a car in 9 years. I used to have an older Mercedes-Benz. I was trying to stunt. I was trying to look cool. It broke down. It was going to cost me like $5 grand to fix it. I said, screw it. I started taking Ubers. I started taking Lyfts. I started taking the train. And I have saved so much money that I've started a whole show called Save That Money. So In this episode today, we're gonna take it to the tape where we're gonna do car versus Uber. Why did I call it car versus Uber? Because people understand what Uber is, but obviously we mean rideshare, we mean Lyft, we mean anything other than having a car. Now let's get into the tail of the tape. The first topic is your car payment. Let's break down what it costs to own a car. Now, for a new car payment today, the average cost is $550. For a used car, you're talking $390. And for a lease, AKA a fleece, you're talking $450 a month. The problem with the lease is you pay. You never own the car, so you just keep paying and paying forever. That's the whole deal with the car payment. Those are the average car payments. Now, when you're talking an Uber, this is where all the numbers and the stuff is going down. I'm going to break it down for you. This is what it costs per ride. There's actually a crazy formula. I'm going to read it to you real quick. It's the base fare plus time rate plus distance rate times the surge multiplier plus tolls plus fees, aka booking fee. That's how they determine how much you'll be spending on a Lyft or Uber. Now, just a little further information for you. The average cost of a Lyft average ride is $12.50 versus an Uber, the average ride is $13.30. So those are the big costs right there. You got the monthly car payment versus the average ride for a ride share. So here's the catch. How many times are you using the Uber or Lyft? That's up to you. Let's get into the next topic, which is finance charges. The average finance charge, according to AAA, is $670 a year. That equates to 4.3% that you're paying in interest. Now, what's the finance charges for an Uber or Lyft? NA. It stands for not applicable. That's going to be a common theme in many of the different categories here with Uber. Moving on. The next topic we got is down payment. How much is the average down payment for a car? Well, it's 10 to 20%, depending on what kind of car you're getting, depending on what kind of vehicle you're getting. What does that equate to? Well, we just said the average car, used car is $20,000. The average new car is $37,000. So you're talking on average $2,000 to $5,000 for a down payment. Now, if you're talking Lyft and Uber, how much is the down payment? NA, not applicable, $0. Now we got insurance. That's a big one. The average car insurance in America today is $1,750. That equates to $145 a month, depending on your driving record. That's a big one. How much is your car insurance for an Uber or Lyft? NA, not applicable, $0. Congratulations. Now we're talking gas. How much gas are you spending per month? Per car, you're talking a little under $1,700 a year on gas. That equates to $140 a month. That's 11 cents a mile. Let me check how much the gas is on Uber or Lyft. Not applicable. $0. You're paying nothing. You get the message here? Here we go. Moving right along. Now let's talk maintenance. How much is the average maintenance per year for car? Well, it's $910. What comes with maintenance? Well, you know it. If you have a car, you're talking oil changes, tires, batteries, tune-ups, upkeep. That's what comes with maintenance. How much is maintenance on a Lyft or Uber? NA, not applicable. You're not paying for that. Here we go. Last thing, taxes, tag, title. How much are you paying on average? $670 a year. That varies state by state. You get it. Certain states are higher, certain states are lower. How much is it on Lyft or Uber? Not applicable. Save that money. Here we go. Moving right along, let's talk about upgrades. Now, here's where things might differ. Upgrades. When you're talking upgrades for your car, you're talking accessories. What kind of accessories or modifications are we talking about here? We're talking tints, we're talking rims, we're talking exhaust, we're talking systems. You want to look good, you want to look fresh? Cool, we get it. That's going to cost you a pretty penny. Moving right along. Now we got some charges that are going to cost you with the Lyft and Uber. Now we got some charges. Maybe you want to upgrade, you want to look good, you got a hot date, you got a big meeting, what are you going to do? You want to look good? You might have an Uber Lux, you might have a Lyft SUV, you might have a Lyft or Uber black car. That might cost you double or triple what you're typically paying right there. So that's the first charge that's like, hold on, is this Uber or Lyft really worth it? I don't know, because if I want a really, really dope car to get around with where I'm going, that might cost me extra. Moving right along, let's talk about parking. Now, what I have here is low, medium, and high, because parking depends on where you're at. Sometimes parking's free. Cool, you park at your friend's house, you park at a city street, there's free parking, no big deal. Then you got medium parking, now it's short term. You might have pay a meter, or you might have to pay valet. Maybe you're talking $5, $10, $20, no big deal. But then you got high stuff. Maybe you're talking daily fees. You got to pay for an office visit all day, or you're working all day. That might cost you $40, $50, $60, depending on the city you're in. Parking does add up. Moving right along, how much is parking with Lyft? Well, we get the point here. NA not applicable because you pull up, they drop you off, get out of the car, you're not paying for parking. Keep it moving. Moving right along, this is the big thing here. This is maybe the big thing. Let's talk about convenience. When you're talking about convenience, about having a car, you're self-reliant. It's on you. You come and go as you please. You do what you want to do. You don't got to get in a car with anybody else. Who's this driver? I'm not so sure. Can I trust him? Can I not trust him? It's on you. Okay, cool. No big deal. The one catch with that is don't text and drive. You got that? Okay. Now talking about convenience with the Lyft or Uber, you're dependent on the driver. It's not on you. You can't come and go as you please. You got to wait for them to pick you up. You're driving with a stranger. Do you know them? Do you not know them? I don't know. Can you trust them? You're in the back seat. Who knows? Some people are creeped out by these things. Some people, I don't give a shit. It's all good. Here's the catch though. You can text and drive and work while you're driving. So that is some sort of convenience while someone else is driving. Moving right along, let's talk about worst case scenario. This is a big thing. So pay attention now. Big thing. This is the last thing you want with your car. You get a flat tire, you're on the side of a road, you're waiting on AAA to come fix a tire. Do you know how to change a tire? All of a sudden you're dealing with maybe an accident, God forbid, someone backed into you. Your car's in the shop, you're dealing with that crap. God forbid, worst case scenario, you get a DUI. That might cost you $5,000, $10,000 to deal with the DUI. That is a nightmare situation you would likely want to avoid. Okay, understand that. Okay, so now what's worst case scenario with a Lyft or Uber? Well, maybe the driver cancels, they get lost, you go the wrong route, you're charged a little bit extra, you gotta get a refund. That's a worst case scenario. Maybe you're wasted, you puke in the car, you gotta pay $200 because you puked in someone's car. That's worst case scenario. I don't know about you, but worst case scenario over here is a lot worse than this worst case scenario. That's just my opinion. I don't know. What do you think? Now let's talk about depreciation. This is a huge factor when you have a car. Depreciation. I don't know if you know this, but a car is a depreciating asset. Let me say that again. A car is a depreciating asset. The average cost of a car, $30,000. That's for a new car. After the first year, it depreciates 30%, and then it depreciates 15% year after year after year. You bought a car for 30 grand. Next thing you know, it's 5 years later and it's only worth 12 grand. That's how depreciation works. Now, how much is depreciation on your Lyft or Uber? Well, it's NA, zero. Zero depreciation because it's not your car. All good. Last but not least, let's talk about total cost. We've done the math. We've run the numbers. Here's the total cost of having a car on average per year. So the average cost of a car to own a car total all the way down $8,500 per year, okay? So if you're doing basic math here, you're spending between $400 and $500 between a new car, used car, old, whatever. So if you do the math on that only comes out to about 4 or 5 grand. But a car costs you $8,500 a year. Well, we just did the math. All these things add up. Moving right along, let's talk about the total cost of an Uber or Lyft. Well, it comes out to about $4,000 a year. That's if you're taking a car 3 to 4 trips a week. That's just basic math right there. So the total cost favors Lyft or Uber versus having a car. But the question is, what should you do? Let's break these two things down. Now, what we have here is who should be having a car and who should be just Ubering around. Uber everywhere, Uber everywhere. Let's get into who should have a car. Now, who should have a car? If you're going long distances, if you have a long commute, if you're in the car for a half hour, you're driving places, you got a long commute that will add up in an Uber or Lyft, that's probably not for you. If you're taking multiple daily trips, you're going to the store, and then you're going for lunch, and then you got to go get some milk, then you got to pick up your kids. If you're making multiple daily trips, that can get really, really annoying in a car or an Uber. Next thing is if there's limited public transportation around you, maybe you're in a rural area, you don't have subways or buses or trains anywhere near you, maybe you need to have a car. What else? If you want to have pride, if you want to kind of do your thing and you want to have a sense of ownership and stability and you want to have status is a big thing, then maybe you need to have a car. I get it. Last but not least, family. If you got a family with kids and pets and pile them in the car and you're doing your thing, then you probably want to take the whole family in an Uber and a Lyft. I get it. However, here's the catch. Maybe you only need one car for the whole family. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? We just established at the very beginning here that the average household has 1.88 cars, just under 2 cars. But I know a lot of people are just saying, you know what, screw it, I'm just doing one car these days for the family, we'll save that money and we'll Uber elsewhere. That's an option. Moving right along, who should Uber? Now, if you're living a short distance from where you're going, if you live close to the office, maybe you're only 5-10 minutes from the office, you should definitely consider Uber, especially these days if you're working from home, if you're working remote, the car's sitting there 95% of the time collecting dust, you don't have a long drive, you maybe need to think about Ubering everywhere you go. If you're only taking a few daily trips, no big deal. If you're at an office all day, if you have access to public transportation, if you can easily just jump in a subway or a train or a bus, no big deal. You can maybe just Uber and not have a car. Obviously, if you're single, it's just you're doing your thing, you don't got kids, you don't got a family, it's probably easy to Uber. I've done that, it works for me. Will it work for you? Last but not least, drinking. Obviously, if you're drinking, you want to avoid a DUI. I don't care if you have a car or not have a car. Don't be caught drinking and driving. Avoid that DUI. Definitely use an Uber. Okay, so you've seen the numbers, you've seen the stats, you've seen the figures. The only question is this: what works best for you? Only you can answer that. So here's my final takeaway. The beautiful thing these days is you have options. You have choices. This is capitalism at its finest. If you want to have a car, have a car. If you want to Uber, you want to Lyft, you want to take a subway, do what works best for you. You have options. That's a beautiful thing. Number 2, I encourage you to do these 3 words. Do the math. Do the math. Do the math and see how much it's actually costing you to have a car. Have you done the math? I'm asking you. Do you even know what you're paying in all these expenses? Do the math when it comes to Lyft and Uber. Am I taking this too much? Is it not enough? I don't know. Do the math. That's a major, major thing. And last but not least, after you do the math, make sure you add it all up and you save that money. That's what we're all about here, as you know. Now, if you have not seen my video on whether it's better for you to rent or buy, check out this video right here. Or if you have not seen my video on how to invest in the stock market today, check that out right here. And if you have not subscribed to Valuetainment Economics, please subscribe below and smash that like button while you're at it. And as always, make sure you save that money.
All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. All we talk is money.